Welcome everyone to another nuking experiment in Fallout 76. Previously we nuked the Fast Not Parade, and it's safe to say to all the community not to do that. It doesn't do much of anything but ruin a lot of people's experience who are not prepared to be in a radiated blast zone, which is quite a bit of people, especially when a lot of players are hopping servers trying to get these really rare masks. But at least it lets players realize what can happen nuking the limited time Fast Not Parade event. We had to experiment to see what happens. After all, it is limited time. It's just going to be something to look back on now.
Ah, a mole rat. A mole rat. Oh, sorry, I mistook you for something else.
In this experiment, we're going to be seeing what happens when we nuke the top of the world. Nuking this location will also hit a little bit of Beckwith Farm, South Cutthroat Camp, Pleasant Valley Train Station, Pleasant Valley Ski Resort, and Pleasant Valley Cabins. This has been a highly suggested area to find out whether or not it's worth it to nuke within the comments of the previous episodes. So I'm excited to see what actually happens because this has been on the back burner for quite some time. It's nice to be checking this off the list now.
G-card accepted. G-card access granted. Attention. Launch sequence activated. Launch tube will seal in 30 seconds. All personnel should exit the launch tube immediately.
So we'll be starting with the Beckwith Farm location that we barely tipped and slowly work our way up to the top of the world. At this location here I encountered two level 75 Yagwai surprisingly. This was an awesome surprise because they had quite a bit of goodies on them to scavenge. I also noticed there were flora around that provided yellow cake flux. Keep in mind I barely nicked this location so I didn't get to see the full aftermath of what this farm could truly provide with flora, but for the most part I seen yellow cake. I also noticed ultracite I could get from here too, but other than that, not too much. From here I headed towards South Cutthroat Camp. What a odd name for a camp. But here I luckily encountered a 3-star legendary super mutant along with his crew. This was a decent amount of XP and loot here. I didn't get nothing too crazy however from the legendary, but it was nice seeing it, and as well as a few other super mutants I could take out. Not only does super mutants spawn here, but you can sometimes encounter mole miners, or I'm pretty sure scorched enemies as well. It won't always be super mutants, I know that for sure. Anyways, from here I headed toward the train station, which as expected there were no enemies here. However, there were quite a bit of flux to gather, specifically yellow cake flux. From here though I immediately headed over to Point Pleasant Ski Resort area. I didn't really search around the train station too much. But anyways, over here at this area I noticed it was flooded with mole miners. I also encountered a legendary one too. Also, I do know super mutants and scorched can be here as well. It won't always be mole miners, just like how South Cutthroat Camp was. The super mutants were there, but they won't always be there. I feel like that's just little important information to know whether or not certain areas have random enemies to spawn, because some areas there will always be feral ghouls at, or there will always be scorched at. They're like set in stone locations. For example, for the most part, White Springs will always have feral ghouls, so when you go to nuke that location, there will typically be glowing ones there. However, there are specific locations, like this one that we are at, where there are random enemies that will spawn here, such as between scorched, super mutants, or as we got this time, mole miners. Anyways, from this location, I headed toward the top of the world, and at the ground level here, I noticed that there was a glowing deathclaw. I didn't get to encounter it myself, but I noticed that someone else did because it was dead here, which I believe that someone else was this group of level 68 super mutants. Also, I seen quite a few scorched enemies around this area, as well as some insects too. And for the flora around this vicinity, all I seen was yellow cake flux. It seems like this place is just flooded with yellow cake flux from these radberries you could find literally everywhere around this vicinity. I mean, sure, there might have been some other flora here and there, but not enough to make a few stable fluxes. You could maybe make one if you really search hard, because after all, it does require 10 raw flux to make a stabled flux. But I'm not going to get into all of that. If you're interested in the fluxes, however, and good areas to nuke for them, I'll have a link down below in the description of a video I did previously over good locations to nuke for nuked flora. Anyways, lastly, something to point out down here, I did see ultracite you could scavenge as well. After I checked down here on the ground, I went up to the second floor just to see what was up here, and I encountered even more scorched. These were level 68 scorched, and there were quite a bit of them up here. The third floor, however, had nothing but rows still. I expected that. I just wanted to check just in case. But overall, this place wasn't truly worth it to nuke, I'll be completely honest. I mean, sure, there were quite a bit of scorched enemies and yellow cake flux around. But still, nothing that comes close to topping White Springs, or heck, even Monongah, Morgantown, or Charleston's Capitol building, to be real with you. Those so far have been the best locations that we have hit overall throughout this series. And also, I mean, truthfully, the enemies around here in a nuke zone could be the same level, not in the nuke zone. So you basically could get the same amount of overall experience from this area. So the only real difference about this place being nuked is the yellow cake flux. And also maybe a little bit more higher level enemies here and there. But like I just mentioned, they can be around the same level without this place being nuked. And also I will mention, I did see a few other flux around too, not just the yellow cake, but not enough to make a few stabled flux. Maybe like one, if that. Anyways, lastly, I also checked over at Pleasant Valley Cabins, since the nuke also did hit this area. And it's safe to just check this area off the list as well, of the areas not worth it to touch whatsoever, with a nuke blast radius in Fallout 76, because these areas hardly provided any experience and loot. Well, yeah, there you have it, everyone. I know a lot of you were curious on whether or not nuking Top of the World would be worth it, and well, here's your answer. No, it's unfortunately not, but at least we learned why it's not. I'm out of here though, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen, and if you want to support this series, maybe take a little bit of your time and leave a like. That's always greatly appreciated. As always though, that's totally up to you. I'm out of here. Peace.